Welcome to the Innovation Accelerator podcast, brought to you by Innovacer, the data platform that accelerates innovation in healthcare. We're on a mission to connect and curate the world's healthcare information to make it accessible and useful. Accelerate innovation, digital transformation, and your success with population health, customer relationship management, and value-based care with Innovacer. Visit us online at innovacer.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Innovation Accelerator podcast. I'm Rich Levin. Today we'll be talking about reinventing the Chief Marketing Officer. Where to start? With our special guest, Dori Kleesis, Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at Hackensack Meridian Health. Hackensack Meridian Health is a leading not-for-profit healthcare organization and the largest integrated healthcare network in New Jersey, offering a complete range of medical services, innovative research, and life-enhancing care. The health system comprises 3 academic medical centers, 2 children's hospitals, 9 community hospitals, a behavioral health hospital, and 2 rehabilitation hospitals. Their network has more than 500 patient care locations throughout New Jersey, including ambulatory care centers, surgery centers, home health services, long-term care and assisted living communities, ambulance services and air medical transportation, fitness and wellness centers, rehabilitation centers, urgent care centers, and physician practices. That's large. Hackensack Meridian Health has more than 36,000 team members and over 7,000 physicians committed to the health and well-being of the communities it serves. The Hackensack Meridian School of Medicine opened in 2018 and welcomed its 3rd class of students in 2020. So that's some background on the health system. Moderating today's show is Gary Druckenmiller Jr., General Manager of CRM at Innovacer. Dori, welcome to the Innovation Accelerator podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
We love having you. And before we get started, can you please tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? What's your day-to-day role at Hackensack Meridian Health like? What do you and your team focus on every day? And maybe touch a bit on your career journey that brought you to where you are today.
Sure. So I feel I'm honored to be sort of a chief strategic storyteller. So as you mentioned, the health system is very large. It has amazing people, amazing stories, amazing transformations. And I feel my role is to tell the story of the network's DNA, what we're all about and how we care for patients and what we bring to them and to their health. It's been a pleasure working for the network. I feel that there's so many stories to tell, so many treasures to find. And as coming from my background, which is in network television, I worked at the Today Show for about 15 years. In the end, I was a medical producer working primarily with Katie Couric on a lot of her medical stories. Many of the topics today that we're talking so freely about, we covered on that network. Autism, spinal cord injury with the late Christopher Reeve and Dana Reeve, medical research, medical breakthroughs, infertility. And then I was able to continue that journey with Katie Couric at the CBS Evening News, where I was her chief medical producer. And again, every week we would learn about what stories were coming out in the journals, decide what made news, right? In evening news, you have to figure out what story is going to affect the most people and which story to tell. So we used all of our resources to get those stories out there. And then sort of mid Katie Couric at the CBS Evening News, I went to her and said, Katie, I really love doing this medical news. And in fact, I kind of miss working at the Today Show where I could go around the country, visit these medical centers, learn about them, interview the experts, and I would love to sort of dive back into that again, working at a medical center. So I sort of was very honest with her, and she said, well, that's a great idea, so let me support you. That is great. And I took a job at the NYU Langone Medical Center as the media director, and that just was a fantastic match for me. Learning from all the scientists, learning from the physicians, the experts, telling their stories, and strategically deciding what stories we were going to to tell. And it's not, some people say when you go to PR, you're going to the dark side. And I felt that was not the case at all. Basically, there were so many stories to tell. Which stories, did we want to publicize and share with the media, because they can't do it all. And what I loved about that most was that I could come up with 12 stories and give them to 12 different journalists to work on. Very different than at the Today Show, where it was one story. I would have to do one at a time. Here, you can do 12 at a time, and you can collaborate with the journalists and make sure that they're getting the resources they need at your health system. And I try to do my best to help them do their job. So it's really from the inside to the inside again, I guess you could say, from being a journalist to being in a healthcare setting and telling those stories on a daily basis.
I'm just going to butt in here and just say that you and I come from the same alumni. So I was at CBS Radio covering information technology. And I had one of the first technology reports on CBS. And then I had a 3-hour weekly talk show to fill on WPHT in Philadelphia, which covered information technology. So, and same thing with coming over to PR and, I'm going to the dark side. But it's not. I think bringing that journalistic discipline to the communications has a lot of value to organizations. And you also have to, I think, change the culture a little bit because, marketing organizations tend to come up with things in a bubble in a room and, hey, best idea ever, and they roll it out. And they don't have that skeptical journalist filter that is how you get to the value that engages the people you're trying to speak to and really delivers that value to them. And I think I'm going to bet that there's a lot of that you're bringing to the table in terms of consumerization of healthcare and engaging with the markets that you serve. So I apologize for taking a little bit of time on that, but when I wasn't aware of your backstory. It's a fantastic backstory, and it reminded me in a much bigger way. You went a lot farther than I did. I was in radio, and I have a face for radio, I suppose. But I just wanted to share that sort of connection. So anyway, how about you, Gary? Tell us a little bit about your role at Innovacer and what you and your team do every day.
Yeah, no, thanks, Rich. Man, I feel like a lesser of a human being today with you guys on. It's like, haven't been in radio, haven't been in TV. It's just like, certainly somnambulant Gary is what I'll, but thank you, Rich. No, the work we're doing at Innovacer is pretty remarkable. We've got the only longitudinal data platform in the entire provider space, and that allows a lot of amazing, magical things to happen, including providing, which we'll talk about today, Dory, is longitudinal journeys, journey mapping, the importance of simplicity when it comes to consumerism and getting things down to the absolute bare minimum that's required for those to whom you serve to interact in a way that is commiserate with how they interact in the rest of their lives. We know that EMRs struggle to do this. We know that non-healthcare technology companies struggle to do this, but here at Innovacer, we're doing it. And so we're very excited to kind of hear your story and that you've embarked on. And Rich, what's the PR line that you have at the bottom of every one of your emails? And then we'll get into the...
it's a quote attributed to Bill Gates that I love, and I've had it on my email signature for years, but it goes, I'll paraphrase it, if I only had $2 left, I'd spend $1 on PR. And there's a whole backstory to his view of PR and in the early days of Microsoft, how he got Microsoft on the radar. And I won't waste our time here. We could talk offline, but it's fascinating. And I blatantly, what did Steve Jobs say? A great artist steal. So I steal his ideas and Wagner Estrom's ideas all the time. Anyway, that's it for me. I'm going to send it over to you, Gary, and I'll be back at the end of the show to read us out.
Great. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
All right, Dory.
Thank you.
Let's dive in. Rich did us a great honor there, kind of letting you introduce yourself, and we'll get more into that and feed in much of your background as we're going through in today's discussion and as you talk about Hackensack. But the first thing that's at the top of everybody's mind that they're going to want to know right now, in about 60 to 90 seconds. What makes up your CMO responsibilities? Here we are talking about reinventing the chief marketing officer. You work for you work for one of the powerhouses in the Northeast, and perhaps from the Northeast all the way down to the Mid-Atlantic. I mean, Hackensack Meridian's really developed quite a name for itself since you've been there. What makes up your primary responsibilities as CMO today?
Yeah, so we really, we're very focused on our brand. We want to make every experience that people see in the marketplace, make it a good experience for them. So, what is our brand? How are we sharing our message? So spend a lot of time on our brand, creatively with our advertising colleagues, creating our ad campaigns. What is our message? So this year we came out with a new campaign called We're Ready. And that took a lot of effort in terms of really focusing in on that message, because we came out of COVID, everyone's lives were changed, and we focus. We're ready to care for patients, and our teammates are ready here for anything that comes up for their patients, and we're ready to fight all the diseases that will affect our patients. So that's sort of the main one of the largest goals, because that brand then rolls down into everything we do. So the idea is to tell their story on as many channels as possible, digital, creative, public relations, media relations, digital marketing, through CRM, email communications with our patients. We have about 1 million patients who have opted in. We have a wonderful quarterly newsletter called Health U, where people can read all this great health information, sign up for our emails, and we're also very involved in strategic partnerships. So it's a wide breadth and scope. And we also have an internal analytics department, which I recommend other folks, if you're thinking about it, to really bring it in-house, because then we can do a lot of turnaround on consumer awareness. We test at all times. We're in the market testing top of mind awareness, preference, ad recall. We really want to know where we sit against our competitors. And then if we have special campaigns coming up with messaging, we actually test that. What tests better? So we use that wonderful in-house, I guess you would call it, analytics department pretty often. So it's a wide range. And you could say that, PR, the stories, right? The stories are where we start. And then how do we tell the story in the most appropriate way, and what channels we use. So it is strategic. So right there, we're barely in the kind of reinvention of the CMO is already happening right before our eyes. I hear words like analytics, and I hear strategy, and I hear data, and I hear creative, and I hear brand, and I hear PR. What is it that you're not doing? So let me follow up with another question. So that campaign sounds amazing, and it might be the one thing, but what's the most important thing you're working on right now? It is bringing that campaign down to the zip code, to be honest. So we are ready. It's in our ad campaigns. People can see it on TV. They can see it on our creative print ads. But what we're trying to do is hyper-localize that message for the people around the 18 hospitals that we have, to tell that same story, but localize it in the area around the hospital. So each hospital has certain zip codes. So we have our marketing folks. They have the main, the broad messaging. We're here ready to care for you. And then they actually work on the copy to connect to the people in their audiences, in their zip codes. And then we take our digital ads, display ads, etc., social, and we target the people in the local area. So we're a network, but we're also very locally focused, caring for the folks in that area, because that's where our patients come from. And then, the newest thing that we're doing, give you an example of how matrix we are. To give you an example of how matrix we are, we had 3 neuroscience institutes, one in the north, one in the central, one in the south, and they all started with their first name. The Hackensack University Medical Center, the JFK University Medical Center Neuroscience Institute. Now we've rebranded it's the HMH Neuroscience Institute at each location. And so with that, we take that, the new name, the new brand, but each location may have some interesting technology that the others also have, maybe a little differently. So we take the accolades and the stories at each site and hyper-localize it through our digital tactics.
Gotcha. Yep. So that's wonderful. And that right there, man, that's reinventing the role because that's been traditionally left up to other audiences, farming that out to agencies. But man, it sounds like you're bringing that in-house. I remember, because I've worked with a lot of your peers over the years, man, we always talked about that, but bringing that type of brand locally to a Zip 5, which means you're at the community level. I mean, that's awesome. That's crazy personalized.
Yeah, and just for people listening to us, the way we work on that is the marketing person we have several marketers covering different areas, but then they call the analytics department and they'll have discussions with them on how to super target the zip codes. What should we do? We also have an agency that works with us. We have a digital agency, but having that internal analytics is sort of the circle, the agency, the analytics, and the marketing person. And then they can work together closely to make that campaign happen. And then we also ask for campaign scorecards. So after 3 months, what's the executive summary? What did we learn? What did well? What didn't do well? What can we do going forward? And so, and then we do, we're accountable for our work, and we try to figure out what happened during that 3-month period. Did we get more patients in to engage, to click, to join a webinar, to go to find a doc? Yep. So we are trying to track that journey all the way through.
Well, that's fantastic. There is no better way to kick off a session like this than that, because that's not only reinventing the CMO's role, that's reinventing how health systems should be going to market entirely, which really leads us into our next kind of round of questions here. So let's pick off from that, because you talk about doing that sort of branding at a new hierarchical level, which is cleaner, simpler, begins to connotate a designation. That designation then falls all the way down into your low-level tactics, into your messaging. Very, very difficult to do in the health system and healthcare environment. Heck, technology companies regulate, and big brand companies struggle at doing this. Doing it at a health system level is very, very difficult because you're dealing with point of care. So doing that draws an eye to, why are you doing that? Well, certainly consumer acquisition is a big part of that. Now, whether we want to say fortunate or unfortunate, it's a hot topic again, because health systems are struggling with reduction of workforce, new inefficiencies, and that's creating a surmountable amount of mounting costs to the organization. So they're like, okay, we got to open up the pipelines again. We got to look at our capacity and so on. So and using maybe that as a kind of a tipping point to this discussion, what are some of the methods and hacks that you're implementing to ensure that consumer growth story is at the top of your marketing game for Hackensack? And I'm assuming it's pretty important, but I'd love to hear you kind of evolve the story you just kind of led into that, to see what sort of consumer growth mechanisms and measures you're putting into place today.
Yes. So consumer growth, having people become our patients is key, right? So how do you do that? So you engage them through excellent content. We have a great content department doing our Health U, but then we take that is a quarterly print publication. We do send out to about 1 million people a year, or at a time, actually. But then we have a digital system to get that information to them through CRM. So we connect with them. But if you're asking me the big question, I mean, the first thing that happened about 3 years ago after our merger, we've been a health network now for about 6 years, is we started the 1-800 number, a main centralized call center. So before, it was very individualized. Wherever you are, you called into the practice or to the hospital. So that's the number one transformational, I guess, initiative to have a call center that you can track, and you train all the folks who are answering the phone in a way to help patients throughout their journey. We also have online appointments now for primary care, pediatrics, OBGYN, mammography, and now cancer. So we're trying to help the patient get into the front door easily. In cancer, we also have patient navigators, which I think are working really well to help patients get their appointments, and then also if they need appointments further down. The CRM, sending emails to our patients, through our analytics department, we're able to slice and dice the information, how old the people are, did they do their yearly checkup through the to EMR, through the EMR, did they do their yearly checkup? Have they gotten their colonoscopy? So we're able to slice and dice respectfully, sharing health content information that perhaps could inspire them to get their yearly preventive screening. So, and during COVID, or during COVID, I guess, or the end of it, we launched a email campaign for people who needed various things. They missed their primary care appointment the year before. They may be up for their screenings. And we got a lot of engagement through that campaign, just targeting people in our system in a thoughtful way. And then one other example I shared with you, or one other example is for each specialty. For cardiology, for cardiology, we're brainstorming constantly on how to bring new patients in. So for that specific one, we have a $99 calcium scoring scan offered at 6 hospitals now, maybe offered at 7. So you can come in, get that scan, and then we were able to track it, right? As you talk about tracking the patient. We got about 1,000 patients through that over a 3-month period. And then we were able to show that we'd brought in $1.5 million in revenue. Some of those patients, they picked up something, a valve problem, a heart problem. They came in for surgery. So just that screening resulted in, downstream encounters and revenue for the hospital. But basically, most importantly, help them with their situation. So, we try to touch the patient wherever they are. And in fact, in that campaign, one of our marketing folks, they actually had an engagement for patients when they came in to see their cardiology. They had a QR code, and you could do a meditation session for 5 minutes waiting for your doctor. So, we're trying to find, yes, we're trying to find exactly all the places we can connect with you in the marketing arena, right? Because there's other arenas. There's, once they come in and, then they're off to the patient side, right? So,
right. No, that's fabulous, man. You stated one of those. Yeah, I don't think you actually used the acronym, but you said it, ROI. I mean, you got it.
Yes.
You got it.
Yes.
You talk about connecting those. And again, healthcare marketers have been at this for years now, and we're only just now starting to get better at determining that. So the fact that you're able to draw those outcomes back to your expense and prove it is really, really amazing, because many still struggle with the math and the financial agreements, and that, as we were kind of talking on the pre-show, to kind of connect departments together to make these things happen. So congratulations on that. I'm curious, is there another example of a campaign that you're seeing similar results, or not maybe similar results, but where you're also seeing an ROI? Is there any service lines that have a higher proclivity for getting a positive ROI like that?
I think it's possible. I mean, in many of our service lines, the one we're doing now is the Neuroscience Institute campaign.
Yep.
And so we have, it's been in the market about 2 months now, but we're seeing a lot of engagement on social media. We're seeing a lot of clicks to webinars, and that's how we can try to bring them in. And then down the line, in this particular example with that, I'm not sure how we're connecting to the EMR. I know in cardiology we are able to do it because of a certain technology compatibility, but I think we should strive to do that and always come in and report those results as well, so that the powers that be know what marketing's up to.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's what you're building, right? There's marketing for years, particularly in larger kind of stodgy kind of organizations, right, that don't really have a clear line of sight to marketing, have to get a seat at the revenue table. And gosh darn it, you're doing that. So let's actually you were kind of talking for a second there about, getting all the steps lined up, and I can hear in your voice like this articulation of get them to start here, then they move into here. There's maybe like an always on social media program, and then we have a 3-month more tactical program. There might be some digital advertising surrounding that. There's clearly orchestration. And when there's orchestration, that means that you probably have some line of sight into the more modernistic term, which is around the journey. So let's talk about that a little bit. Tell us a bit about how you see the consumer and patient journey evolving, not just purely in a consumer growth standpoint, but as far as you want to take it. What are some of the top areas you're focusing on in that realm today for both consumer and patient, or whichever one you have a higher degree of prominence on today?
Well, I agree with everyone out there that the consumer wants healthcare easily, like they go to a bank. Perhaps they want to be able to quickly pay their bill. Yes, they want to get everything in quickly, and we have to understand that healthcare is a bit of a different animal. Basically, you can choose who your doctor is, and you make choices. Do you like your doctor? Do you want to move to another doctor? How do you get everything? I mean, I would love to have a virtual assistant who knows me so well that can help plan my every preventive screening for the year. Wouldn't we all love that? So there's such a small funnel between all the patients in the world and then, your doctor's office. So how do we enlarge that funnel to be more of a concierge service? We'd like to hire more people, but we can't sometimes because of the way the economics are. So how do we make that entryway into the doctor's office easier? Online appointments is what we're trying. So, we've had a lot of success with that. And I think in 1 month, we got about 500 online appointments without even advertising. Now we're advertising that. How do we bring more cancer patients into our cancer system, the JTCC Cancer Center? Is it more navigators? Is it more education about what we do? Is it more differentiators in our marketing? We're not sure. How do we make our patients aware of what we can offer at the Cancer Center? They have 450 clinical trials a year. We have CAR T-cell therapy. They were a pioneer with that, and we have bone marrow transplants. We do more bone marrow than a lot of our competitors. So, how do we make them aware and bring them in? And then along the journey, what is it like? Or they're getting their bloods taken, they're going to see the nurse. At JTCC is a good example. Their patient navigators meet you when you come up the elevator. They take you to help you sign in. They take you to the doctor. So I think they have a nice system of, once you're in, getting the patient to where they have to go. And then I think for patients with multiple myeloma, they have a patient navigator that will make other appointments throughout the health system for your heart or for your, whatever you need, because it's complicated during that time when you're going through cancer treatment. So that seems like a good model. And the question is, can you bring it to everything else, or is the cost exorbitant?
So those are some great examples. Are you currently working on any kind of journey mapping exercises today? Is that like, is that term like an initiative?
No, I would say that in cancer we're doing that. We are studying how patients come to our website and where they're navigating through the website. Are they making appointments? Are they where they're looking and how we can make it a better experience through the first connection. And then we've also, in journey mapping, they say, we interview stakeholders, patients, doctors, what is that cancer journey like? And we are mapping it out. And to be honest, it's different for different cancers. So multiple, right? So in that case with cancer, we'll have 5 journeys up to look at on the board. And, how are they coming into our website? Are they seeing multiple myeloma? Are they seeing bone cancer? We want to make sure we're focusing on the website now, and hopefully those learnings will help us come up with better content to educate them. But we definitely do patient journeys in cancer, and they're the most complicated because there's so many different cancers.
Right. Yeah, and that's such a great place to start because of the degree of, and the term doesn't even do it justice, but the degree of difficulty, the intricacies and the nuance that go along with every single one, whether it's breast cancer screening, lung cancer. I mean, you go down the line, they all enter into it differently. The different stages come into it. You enter into it differently. The emotional characteristics of the caregivers come. And there's so many things to take into consideration. So bravo. It's definitely proving to be more of an art these days. And so we ask the question often to kind of see where marketing leaders are projecting themselves to really start to not just entertain it, but to activate against it. So again, bravo for taking that on. Yeah.
You spoke before about an orchestration, and to be honest, everything it is an orchestration, and you have to spend time seeing where your ads are. Let's say in our central region, we've got heart ads out, we've got orthopedic ads. We're targeting the same zip codes. So what are the flights? So we use an agency to do that. We get help from our analytics team, but you really have to orchestrate it and plan it out and make sure that you're not competing with yourself, because you've got, many specialties and the same amount of patients. And that's why you have to target to your best ability, so they're not getting messages that they don't need. Yep.
Never events too. I got to avoid all those. Great answers. So there's going to be a day where I'm not going to be able to ask this question, or at least lean into the topic of where this question comes from. And I can't wait for this day to come. But in the meantime, we're still within the window of the pandemic. So things are still in a little bit of flux. So I'm gonna lean into this a little bit to kind of get your interpretation of a post-pandemic chief marketing and communications officer role. Your role has likely changed a little bit since the pandemic, just a smidge. Not only as a harbinger of growth, but now also a member of an elite group that has to begin to think outside of just the walls of your own department, and extending olive branches and living in the home in the living room next to the dining room of, let's say, the value-based care folks, right? Because that movement has now been not just nudged, it's been emboldened. Like the pandemic has really forced the nature that value-based care, and whatever iteration it ends up being, will constitute at least half of the financial recognition of the average health system in America, where today it's like 95% fee for service, right? We're looking for a balance. So what are some of here's my question. What are some more of the evolving areas that you're being asked to delve into dramatically, and it doesn't have to be just value-based care, but into dramatically different from your pre-pandemic world? In other words, what are you being asked to focus on more in a post-pandemic world than in a pre-pandemic world? Let's just maybe start there.
Well, I have to say that the pandemic showed everyone that you could turn on a dime and work in breakneck speed and make decisions very quickly. And so I would say that before, the chief marketing officer and colleagues had a little bit more of a chance to think and pontificate about how they may do things. Now, instead of looking at the year ahead, you have to look at the quarter ahead. How are we doing? What do we have to respond to? Our cancer volumes are cancer volumes down? In what areas? And then we're expected to help when volumes are down, create a campaign digitally, mostly at this moment, if you want to do things quickly, and create help out by increasing volume. So things are very dramatically, I would say, different.
I'm curious if I can just kind of follow up on that really quickly. In a post-pandemic world, do you feel like Hackensack has kind of gone back to some of the way you were doing things during the pandemic, noting that, as you explained, during the pandemic, everybody came together, there were control centers, command centers. Do you feel like that's waned? And do you feel like you've kind of gone back to the way things kind of used to be before the pandemic?
I think things have changed since the pandemic, that we are expected to work very, very quickly in whatever field we are, whether it's HR, marketing, patient experience. We have a wonderful CEO, and we all learned that we could make decisions quickly. And now it's expected of all of us. So when we do marketing campaigns, we're in the market very quickly, especially with our digital campaigns, and we start assessing the behavior of those campaigns, if they're working, weeks after we're in the market, so we could actually tweak them. So I think we learned that we don't have the time to think and pontificate. We need to put all our efforts into focus and work quickly, and especially in our area, which is marketing.
Yeah, well, I think that's great. I wish most health systems would come across with that answer. I don't know if many can do, so it's wonderful that you are. And we all learned a lot at the end of the day. So, hey, we're here today to talk about, just as a reminder, as we've been going through all this, talk about you and your role. So let's kind of flip the gears a little bit for a second and get into that. In a more traditional marketing sense, the CMO role has also been heavily manifested to the creative side, content, design, brand. And this, I know, is a very big, one of your big sweet spots, right? So what are some examples of how today's CMO has to become better at managing the system brand ID while simultaneously ebbing and flowing your storytelling to keep up with it is with a routinely schizophrenic market, right? It's very vibrant right now in some good, amazing ways and some not so amazing ways. How do you manage that and keep your brand ID on point all the time?
Well, really, as chief marketing officers, we're the chief content officer in terms of telling our story. So every story that we tell really has to mirror our brand, has to be the brand DNA. And, we have constant areas of sharing those stories, from our digital Facebook, Instagram, to our digital campaigns, to PR, to marketing. So we're always on a target doing this, telling the story, but actually tweaking it based on the particular channel and audience. So we're telling multiple stories at one time, and we're actually changing them in order to match who we're talking to.
That's great. And so, in one of the kind of keen examples I like to generally focus on when having conversations like this is the growing competencies in that, particularly around the local health community and health equity. Can you kind of describe some of the efforts from your point of view, from your leadership seat, on how you're embracing the fact that healthcare is, in fact, very much so going local again, and how you apply that under the premise of health equity, which we all know is extremely important. Getting it right has been a bit of a mixed bag. How do you look at it? How do you message around that?
Well, we have a social determinants of health program where we do screen every patient when they come in according to certain questions in the electronic medical record. So if they need assistance in housing or getting to an appointment with transportation, we do connect them to nonprofits that are in our system. And so we have screened over 600,000 patients, and we've probably matched, we've had about 1.5 million matches to nonprofit agencies. So we're committed to this, and New Jersey is such a wide-ranging area with different folks of different means, and we do try to make sure we're connecting with all those patients so that everyone will be healthy.
It's great. So yeah, props to you and the team for making sure you're hitting on that very important topic, because it's one that's gaining a lot of steam. We know from our end as well. I mean, at Innovacer, we have an entire health equity practice that we're kind of building out here. So we're trying to make sure we meet where the rubber meets the road, and it's a very vast and incredibly diverse area, of course. Let's move on to the next question. So, Hackensack Meridian is a kind of a New Jersey powerhouse, and they've really hit their stride from obviously a clinical perspective, goes without saying, but from a marketing point of view, I mean, you really know Hackensack's there. How do you promote the successes of Hackensack Meridian in particular? Like, is there a particular way that you like to utilize your PR plays, the rankings? Is there a method to how Hackensack's successes get delivered through your eyes?
Well, we have a large PR team, and we have beats. So that is really I think the secret to success, that you have colleagues who are, who know the area. Let's say it's cardiology or neurology and neurosurgery. So we assign beats to our press officers, and then they go out and make the connections with our stakeholders, our clinicians, our researchers, and really work ahead of time. What's happening a month, 6 months down the line that they can promote. And that really is a way to tell those stories to the journalists, who hopefully then cover them for us. We count on them to tell our stories. So we've been able to increase our media hits each year over the past 3 years by 200%. And we've done a lot of thought leadership as well with our CEO. So really having that beat system where people are dedicated to a specific area, it increases their knowledge, their connections. And then we also work where we're targeting different journalists throughout the state. If we have a story, we actually get together and strategize. Is it a network? Is it a network news story? Do we approach one of the major networks, or is it a local story? Is it both? So there is a lot of strategy, so that you don't have 10 people reaching out to the same journalists on that one day. So we also have sort of an internal news machine, if you will, where we're strategizing inside out. And, we have so many stories to tell. The School of Medicine just got its accreditation. We've graduated several classes now. And those doctors are, they're training at Hackensack Meridian Health in New Jersey. So it's a way to bring more physicians to our area. Our Center for Discovery and Innovation is about 4 years old right now. We have about $500 million in governmental funding, which is pretty amazing after just a few years. And we're creating discoveries that will help the patient at the bedside. And we have 18 hospitals. So that research feeds our 18 hospitals and those patients. And then I mentioned the social determinants of health, reaching out to different communities, the African American community, the Latino community. We have a great presence with addiction services and behavioral health, mental health services. So we've got Carrier Clinic, and we try to get to those folks who need that help. If they need help, we're there for them. So we have a lot of treasures that we try to share with reporters. Things such as ECT therapy for depression and even certain types of autism, to innovative stroke treatments. So, we have so many innovations that we actually try to just strategize, what reporter's getting what and at what time, so that we can make sense of it all.
Well, that's a very fortunate spot to be in. There's too much good news. Oh my gosh.
I know.
There's too much going on. There's not enough people or time. Well, you're very lucky. And I'm glad you can also share that here with this audience, because it's important, right? The Northeast Corridor is a densely populated one, and many of them have their finger on the pulse of healthcare in a pretty unique fashion. So I'm glad you got all that out. That's exactly why we asked the question. Well, hey, thank you for that. We're in the final stretch. Just a couple more questions. Let you get back to your day job. Switching back to pop health and value-based care a little bit, I tend to always, regardless of the topic and regardless of the audience, I try to find a way to sneak this question in because it's pretty imperative to where your world and the pop health world, like I'm sure there's a chief population health officer at Hackensack Meridian, right?
Yeah, they're very committed. We started with the ACO. Those still exist. We cover about 800,000 lives, but we are very committed to population health, and it's really the right thing to do. And so I think that all health systems are trying to do that, or many are. And at some point, people will realize where the incentive is, in terms of payment and health, the intersection of that.
So you teed it up perfectly. And you should have your people call my people on that one. So I asked this question because of what you just said. Like, so you, chief marketing officer, and probably a whole bunch of other chief outputs of that. And then what we see coming, and the chief pop health officer doing that, right? And why is that important, right? Because you control the fee for service engine, and they control the stay out of the health system engine.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Go ahead.
I think actually they're so related. We do screenings all the time.
Exactly.
We're in the community doing lung cancer, colon cancer screening. So we're in the same business as the population health.
Exactly.
So
right. For your A1. Right. You are. That's exactly where I was going with this. So like for A1Cs, for diabetes, right? Like you're on the front lines of these universes where they're very much preventative based, but there's still a margin call on that you're driving, you're doing the communications for. We actually have a funny acronym. Well, it's not actually funny. It's kind of unique. And Rich and I have spent a lot of time waxing rhapsodic on this one. But we call it VBCRM, which is the technological intersection of these two worlds. And so this is where my question comes out of, because it's very important to us that, and me, I'm a marketer like you, that at some point along the way, the work that we're doing has got to begin to actually change the behaviors of those to whom you serve. I mean, why else would we be doing this? You can't just cure the sick forever. I mean, maybe some people can, but when we begin to get the pop health, and so when you say we're doing all these screenings, perfect. That's how it starts. And then eventually, over time, maybe it's not this generation, maybe it's our kids' generations or born and unborn. Slowly, northern Jersey begins to feel this effect of like, you know what? It's actually good to just like feel better. and yeah, I'm going to take care of my diabetes. And yeah, I understand that my parents, my mother had 3 generations, and then her mother, breast cancer. I'm going to start getting ahead of this because Hackensack has specifically sent me a message that is on point for the last year. And they have convinced me to do this. They have really convinced me to do this. And I'm a part of their population. I feel like I'm a part of Dory's population. I know her as much as she knows me. You know where I'm going with this. So here's the question. Are population health and VBC patients, in your eyes, knowing that you do have a little bit of the, hands in this, considered loyal patients? And then what does it mean to be loyal to Hackensack? Can't wait for your answer.
Well, I definitely think they're loyal patients because with population health, we're reaching out to them frequently. Did you get your test? What's your level of high blood pressure? Are you checking this? Are you checking that? We're supposed to keep everyone healthy. So by doing that, we're doing that all the time. This is actually incentivized to do it all the time. So you're bringing that patient more into the fold. And if by chance they happen to have something serious and they need an operation, we're there for them. And that, mind. Right. And they're there. They're in our system, and we can help them get to the expert that they need. And so I think they're a loyal patient, in my opinion. And the second question was, Gary,
what does it actually mean to be loyal to Hackensack or to a health system?
What it means to be loyal is we need to be able to help each patient navigate our health system, which we try to do. If they've got something in terms of a neurological condition and they happen to be at a community hospital, we are going to get them to our academic medical center where we can help them with their high level of care that's needed. So they're in our system, and we're going to guide them to the location or doctor or expertise that can assist them. So just by being in our system, working with a primary care doctor, checking all these things, we can direct them when it's needed.
Good. Guide, that's a good word. That's the second part of our VBCRM blog series. So thank you for unsuspectingly promoting that. Okay, last 1.5 questions. Hindsight, as marketers, hindsight is always, at least it is for me, I'm sure it is for you, 2020. We're kind of experts in beating up our own creativity, and at times we take risky guesses, decisions, right? Just kind of roll those dice. But if you could go back a few years, what is the one thing you would do differently?
During COVID, when we were all wondering how to talk to patients and help them be knowledgeable about what was happening, I think that we would have gone out with the Knowledge is Power campaign earlier than we did. We kind of were working in our old system of, we need to test, we need to think, we need to worry, but in the end, we did a Knowledge is Power campaign where we guided people to a website where we explained COVID and risks and all the things that people were searching for COVID. And just to get it out sooner, I think that would have been in hindsight, that's something I would have done, sooner.
Good. And the fact that you picked up on it so quickly and were able to identify something means that it's true, right? Like you probably think about that often. I do too. I think about decisions I made yesterday and I'd be like, I probably would have done those differently.
Yeah.
All right. Final question, speed round question for you. About 60 seconds or so. If you could snap your fingers and just make one simple change or improvement, I ask everybody this question. In any aspect of healthcare today, what would it be and why?
I think everyone should have a designated patient navigator, meaning at John Theurer Cancer Center at Hackensack University Medical Center, we do have patient navigators for some of our cancer programs. And that navigator can just really help the patient when they're worried about their condition. If they have another condition, how do they get in to see the doctor? I think navigating the system, even if you work within the system, is challenging. So my hope for all is that everyone can be blessed with a patient navigator. So if you have philanthropic dollars out there, perhaps you'll give to your health system to put more navigators in the system to help everyone find their way in our system.
Oh, that's beautiful. You just solidified your foundational duties right there. Everybody on the board is going, good job, Dory. Great job. Well, it's a wonderful answer. And for somebody who's been lost in pretty much every hospital in America, I can agree with you. Having a patient navigator or some improvement there, concierge level would be nice. Dory, thank you. It has been an absolute pleasure to have this chance to speak with you. I think we've run the gamut of the CMO role and looking how we reinvent it through your eyes, noting that you're at the tip of the spear from a marketing standpoint in one of the most prestigious and highly recognized health systems in America and doing some amazing work. And I know that because I can see your marketing all the way in Connecticut. So you got to be doing something, right?
Well, thank you so much, Gary. It was a pleasure to speak with you.
You as well. And with that, Rich, we'll pass it over to you to wrap us up. Thank you again, Dory.
Thank you, Gary. And I'd like to thank Gary Druckenmiller Jr. and Dory Kleesis, Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at Hackensack Meridian Health, for taking the time to chat with us today about reinventing the Chief Marketing Officer. Where to start? For our listeners, don't forget to check the show notes for links to resources and contact information related to today's show. And stay tuned to the Innovation Accelerator podcast for more shows covering the healthcare IT topics you care about. For more information on enterprise CRM and healthcare marketing and other healthcare IT topics, please visit innovacer.com. That's INNOVACCER.com. I'm Rich Levin, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Innovation Accelerator podcast, brought to you by Innovacer, the data platform that accelerates innovation in healthcare. Don't forget to check the show notes for links to related resources and other information. And stay tuned to the Innovation Accelerator podcast for more programs about the healthcare IT topics you care about. Accelerate innovation, digital transformation, and your success with population health, customer relationship management, and value-based care with Innovaccer. For more information, please visit innovaccer.com.
About 60 seconds or so, if you could snap your fingers and just make one simple change or improvement. I ask everybody this question. In any aspect of healthcare today, what would it be and why?
I think everyone should have a designated patient navigator, meaning at John Theurer Cancer Center at Hackensack University Medical Center, we do have patient navigators for some of our cancer programs. And that navigator can just really help the patient when they're worried about their condition. If they have another condition, how do they get in to see the doctor? I think navigating the system, even if you work within the system, is challenging. So my hope for all is that everyone can be blessed with a patient navigator. So if you have philanthropic dollars out there, perhaps you'll give to your health system to put more navigators in the system to help everyone find their way in our system.
Oh, that's beautiful. You just solidified your foundational duties right there. Everybody on the board is going, good job, Dory. Great job. Well, it's a wonderful answer. And for somebody who's been lost in pretty much every hospital in America, I can agree with you. Having a patient navigator or some improvement there, concierge level would be nice. Dory, thank you. It has been an absolute pleasure to have this chance to speak with you. I think we've run the gamut of the CMO role and looking how we reinvent it through your eyes, noting that you're at the tip of the spear from a marketing standpoint in one of the most prestigious and highly recognized health systems in America and doing some amazing work. And I know that because I can see your marketing all the way in Connecticut. So you got to be doing something, right?
Well, thank you so much, Gary. It was a pleasure to speak with you.
You as well. And with that, Rich, we'll pass it over to you to wrap us up. Thank you again, Dory.
Thank you, Gary. And I'd like to thank Gary Druckenmiller Jr. and Dory Kleesis, Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at Hackensack Meridian Health, for taking the time to chat with us today about reinventing the Chief Marketing Officer. Where to start? For our listeners, don't forget to check the show notes for links to resources and contact information related to today's show. And stay tuned to the Innovation Accelerator podcast for more shows covering the healthcare IT topics you care about. For more information on enterprise CRM and healthcare marketing and other healthcare IT topics, please visit innovaccer.com. That's INNOVACCER.com. I'm Rich Levin, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Innovation Accelerator podcast, brought to you by Innovaccer, the data platform that accelerates innovation in healthcare. Don't forget to check the show notes for links to related resources and other information. And stay tuned to the Innovation Accelerator podcast for more programs about the healthcare IT topics you care about. Accelerate innovation, digital transformation, and your success with population health, customer relationship management, and value-based care with Innovaccer. For more information, please visit innovaccer.com.